Hey guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan, and in this video we are going to be doing a deep dive into America's team, the Dallas Cowboys of the NFC East. Lots of mixed views about this team. Well, that's what they're called, so I just went with that, but I'm sure there's some mixed feelings about that. It's up for debate. Maybe that'll be a video of its own someday. But the Dallas Cowboys, we'll just go with that. We're going to be breaking them down. Who'd like to get us started?
I mean, there's plenty to break down here on this team. You look at the roster, obviously. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. That's what we always do if you've watched our deep dives. And their starting quarterback, Dak Prescott. Let's talk about him first, and then we can talk about the depth in the quarterback room. Things I have to say about him, I do have him, I believe, at 7 in terms of quarterbacks. Me personally in the NFL. I think he's a good quarterback. So much potential for him. He looked a lot better last year. He still has room for improvement. I think he can improve this year.
Yeah.
He's a great leader for this team. And perfect for the Cowboys being the leader of America's team.
Yeah, especially with all this offensive talent around him. You know, he's got a lot of fun weapons that he could use. So I think it's really a good environment for him.
Yes. I just saw a picture of Ezekiel Elliott.
Absolutely, Ryan. We'll get to those weapons in just about a second. Before I start talking about Dak Prescott, I just like to say for this video, you probably see that I have a blanket around me right now. You actually can't see my legs, but I have one around my legs too. Yeah. I am very cold. So I just needed to. It is very cold in this room right now. So
really not that bad.
Please excuse my look today. I think I was just cold.
It looks nice. It's a good look.
Throughout all today, through the last hour, I've been kind of cold.
Yeah.
So
it's in the 80s all day, but okay.
Because I was in air conditioning for the past hour and not moving around. Anyways, that's not near or there. We're talking about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. We've had deep dives in the Tyler's days before, right?
Yeah, we have, and we don't need to do that. So talk about the Cowboys.
Okay. Anyways, so Dak Prescott last season ended up with 4,902 yards in the air with 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So pretty good stats from Dak Prescott. Like Ryan said, has the weapons around him. Last year he had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup around him. Those were the two main guys. We'll talk about them in just a second. So a lot of nice weapons to work with. But Dak Prescott, definitely a great quarterback. I think we talked about it in another video recently. Mm-hmm. He was drafted 4th round. So a nice deal for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott now inside the top 10, almost unanimously of quarterbacks around the league. So congratulations to him. But this team consists of more players than just Dak Prescott, so let's talk about some of them.
Even in the quarterback room, you look at Andy Dalton, and you go look at the depth of that, and it's not just him. They
start 0-4, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt that's going to happen.
No,
they have such a strong roster. Mm-hmm. They're one of the better rosters overall in the league, and then they have Ben DiNucci, who they drafted out of James Madison late in the draft. Yeah. Not sure why they drafted him, and Clayton Thorson also there. Yeah. So a couple of good quarterbacks, and Andy Dalton, of course, the highlight of that in their quarterback room in terms of backups. Let's move to what position would you guys like to move to?
Let's talk about these receivers because this is a really, really well said, exciting group. Amari Cooper, we know what he can do. He can make plays, but Michael Gallup is a guy who's really started to hit a really nice point in his career. Was continuing to get better. Still a young guy. And how about this? CeeDee Lamb. I know we've talked about him a lot. What a steal.
Best receiver in the draft.
Best receiver in the draft, according to me and Tyler. Second best for Jordan. But the fact that they got him at 17 and he fell past all those teams that were in the market for wide receivers is insane. So, I mean, this wide receiver room, it is stacked, and they've got different types of guys. They got fast guys. They got route runners. They got deep threats. Dak Prescott, I'm sure, was jumping up and down when that CeeDee Lamb pick was made. He's like, wow,
I would be too,
I got a stacked room,
Yeah, and you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and he might join a mark that two of his teammates now reached last year, getting over 1,000 yards receiving.
He could do it.
He could join them last season. Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, the two guys that Ryan did mention, they both got over 1,000 yards. So very good job by them. Amari Cooper got 1,189 yards with 8 touchdowns, and Michael Gallup, who was on my fantasy team, always got to give him the shout out, 1,107 yards. And where is it? It is there. But I'm not reading it. 6 touchdowns for Michael Gallup last year. So both players did tremendously well. Then we go to CeeDee Lamb. These are not his NFL stats because obviously he has none yet because he is a rookie. Last year with Oklahoma, though, he finished with 1,327 yards with 14 touchdowns and did not play in all the games. He was injured for one or two, I think. So I think it might have just been one.
There was that Baylor game, the
Yeah.
first one.
Um,
Yeah, the first
I
one.
think you're right.
The
Yeah.
28-3 one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to the Falcons.
Yeah.
So those are his stats, and then I say touchdowns 14. I don't know if I did or not. But yeah.
All right, yeah, you talk about that trio of the wide receiver position, probably the best in the NFL if you look at three
Very well
receivers
could
on
be.
this.
If you're looking at
I have to
trio
look
for
again,
sure,
but-
and you could even go just down to duo, and you could still try to make the
Yeah,
argument
but
for
yeah,
Amari
you could.
Cooper and Michael Gallup. I think
or
Michael
even
Gallup's
CeeDee
gonna be great
Lamb, we
this
don't
year.
know yet.
I think
but-
Amari Cooper is a great receiver.
I'm excited for CeeDee Lamb.
But I mean,
This
it's
whole
all.
offense.
There's also a pretty heavily built tight end room. There's not stars necessarily per se. Dalton Schultz was a guy last year that started to do good. Blake Jarwin was a name you heard a lot if you were watching Cowboys games,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you were because they're all over the place. Jason Witten no longer with the Cowboys, with the Raiders now, but he didn't
That's
really
weird.
do much last year for them anyways.
Past his prime, but still a good player.
So those two guys, Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, with a mix of the others as well, I think it'll be enough from the tight end position to at least be okay with and be able to deal with, especially with all these receivers they have.
Yeah, and if this offense had to have a real point, real quick, I just want to say,
Yeah,
if this had to have a weak point on this offense, I think it'd be the tight end position, but it's not bad at all, and that's kind of scary for opposing teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like Tyler said, Jason Witten now gone. He led the tight ends last year with 529 yards and 4 touchdowns. Excuse me. I was reading Blake Jarwin's stats. But right next to him was Blake Jarwin with 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now that Witten's gone, I think Jarwin's going to see a lot more targets. Tyler talked about Dalton Schultz. Didn't get many balls his way. Only got 2 targets, 1 reception for 6 yards and no touchdowns last year. But we could see him getting a bigger role in the future. I think Blake Jarwin is an underrated guy, so watch out for him this year. Maybe you're not drafting him in fantasy, but who knows? Maybe he's one of those guys who can pop up as a good waiver wire pick, especially with a team that is stacked with so many good wide receivers like CeeDee, like Amari, like Michael, that they're going to put all their attention on. Then when you get into the red zone, there's Blake Jarwin to score touchdowns, scored 4 last year. Now that Witten's gone, he'll get more targets there, so just watch out for him.
Plenty to watch out for on this offense.
Still more.
Yeah, there's still
more
more.
big names.
There's still more to talk about. We haven't even talked about.
And a bunch of really big guys.
Yes, we haven't even talked about the running back room yet. Obviously, that's led by Ezekiel Elliott, who has been dominating the NFL for a while now. Been probably in the top 5 in terms of running backs since he got into the NFL. A couple other guys there as well to help him out. Last year, Tony Pollard had a bit of a resurgence, I would say.
A little bit of a role.
And then he kind of went away during the season once Ezekiel Elliott came back. But you can see the potential in him.
Never left, but he wasn't playing fully every single game.
Well, he also held out. That's what I'm saying. When he was holding out in the preseason, Tony Pollard was doing good. And then they drafted 2 running backs this year. I'm going to mention both of them. Darius Anderson, I believe his nickname is Jet Anderson out of TCU, and then Rico Dowdle out of South Carolina. I'm sure Jordan knows that school.
Yeah, I like Rico.
All right, and then lastly, let's move to the offensive line. Ryan, you were raving about this offensive line earlier, so I want you to talk about them.
Hold on, we're just going to go back for a quick second because you forgot to let me read off my stats here.
Yeah.
We'll go back to Ezekiel Elliott.
I did not know you had stats.
I'll talk about Tony Pollard for a little bit. Last year, Ezekiel Elliott, he did play all 16 games, had some injuries in between, but he was in all of them, I believe. So ended up with 1,357 yards with 12 touchdowns. So that's pretty good for a season where he was not there to start the season because he was holding out. Was he injured last year? He's always kind of banged up a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
I don't want to get my facts wrong, but I feel like
you would never.
No, never. I would never do that.
Yeah.
Average 4.5 per carry, and then Pollard, kind of a guy who just running there, 455 yards and 2 touchdowns. So whenever Ezekiel Elliott's hurt or tired, Tony Pollard is definitely a good guy to put in there and just get some yards. So it's a good tandem in the backfield now to the big guys. Tyler, go ahead.
That's Ryan.
Ryan.
Well, I think that this offensive line might be the best in the NFL. I'm not ready to say that.
It's been up there with
certainly.
some of the best for a long time.
It has been. You got to look at the Colts. You got to look at the Saints. Some other teams too,
Steelers.
maybe in the mix. Yeah,
They're always in the mix.
But I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do some more research on that. Maybe that'll be my next little off-season project. Look at who's the best offensive line. But this team is definitely in contention. Let's just read the starting 5. You got Tyron Smith on the left side, Connor Williams, the young guy at left guard, Joe Looney at center, Zach Martin the right guard, and Lyle Collins on the right side at right tackle. That is a stacked group. really, that's kind of, the lifeblood of that offense in a sense, because that's why Dak Prescott has time to throw to these great receivers. That's why Ezekiel Elliott, I'm not trying to say Ezekiel Elliott is only good because of that offensive line, but it certainly does not hurt. And this offensive line, when you think of the Cowboys, you almost kind of think of the offensive line because that's just a position that franchise has been, on top of so consistently for the past few years. And I think they just might have one of, if not the best unit in the league. And again, I can't say that certainly yet. Maybe I'll be able to later. And even some of these other guys that they drafted, they have depth at the position. And this offense is scary, but this offensive line just might be the best unit in the league.
Yeah, guys like Zach Martin,
yeah,
Lyle
Pro
Collins,
bowlers left and right.
They're all over the place. And then last year in the offseason they lost Travis Frederick because he retired. They went in the draft, dealt with that very quickly.
Yeah.
They drafted Tyler Biadasz. I don't know how to say his name. Out of Wisconsin, he was one of the better centers in the draft.
His stock fell a little bit.
Yeah, it did. He was like a higher, he had like first round potential.
At one point, he
just
did.
dropped.
Yeah, so depth at this position as well.
Yes, for sure. And there are other guys I missed. Connor Williams is another one, I believe, that is on the roster. I'd have to look again. I was looking at last year's. Yes, he is. There's more, so sorry if we forgot their linemen, but they're so good. Before we move to the defense, I do want to mention they have a new coach this year. Yeah. That could be problematic. It could make things a lot better. We never really know with new coaches.
Yeah.
But I like what Mike McCarthy seems to be doing with this Cowboys team, offensively and defensively. I like the direction he's going. I just don't know how it's going to work with Dak Prescott. That is what I'm kind of concerned about, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later. Yeah. Let's move to the defense. Who wants to start?
I will. I mean, this defense has playmakers as well. You look at the defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence is a guy who's been making plays consistently. They got Everson Griffin, who was a free agent for a long time, and then they finally just said, hey, you're there, why not? Don Terry Poe, another guy, Antoine Woods. They drafted Neville Gallimore in the second round. Both of their first two picks were Oklahoma Sooners, so the Oklahoma-Dallas connection is strong this year. And a lot of depth really on this defensive line. So, again, this is another strong suit for this team. And I think that is another reason why this team's looking good for 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They are looking very good. I'll just read off some stats here like I do. So let's go to the offensive line as I'm off of it right now. I'm sorry. Ryan mentioned DeMarcus Lawrence. Last year, he finished second on the team in terms of sacks. The guy who finished first is not on the team anymore. He had 11.5 sacks, and he's on my favorite team, the Bears. And that is Robert Quinn, if you did not know. Underrated guy for sure. I really hope he does well this year. I think he's going to do some good stuff. I also think he took Leonard Floyd's number, so that'll be interesting. But if you probably don't care that much about that, but that's just a thinking out loud moment for me. So DeMarcus Lawrence was the headliner in that. Linebacking core is great, and the corners are great, but we'll get to those guys right now.
Yeah, before we do get to the corners, I do want to mention they addressed. I love talking about the draft. They addressed this position in the draft. They drafted Bradley Anae. I've heard both out of Utah, and then also Neville Gallimore, who could be a sneaky one to look out for at the defensive tackle position. They had a couple of big losses this year. Robert Quinn going to the Bears, and then Gerald McCoy is out for the season, I believe.
Just saw that injury.
That is tough to look at. But let's now go into the secondary. Yeah. And Jordan, you were excited about it. How about you start us off with it?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with stats, of course. So, I always like to talk about interceptions when I'm talking about secondary. Not many on this team last year. Xavier Woods had 2 last year, and also Jordan Lewis had 2 last year. Then Chidobe Awuzie, Sean Lee, and Jalen Smith all had 1. So both of those guys that I mentioned with 2 are still on the team. Not going to make that mistake again. Yeah.
Go watch our Browns deep dive. We need some views on that one. Yeah. So Jordan he wanted me to remind you guys to watch that one.
Yeah, thank you.
He makes no mistakes.
Yeah. I do make mistakes, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, we all do. We're all human.
So anyways, Xavier Woods, he's a very, very nice cornerback. I talked about the interceptions, got 2 forced fumbles last year. Also Jordan Lewis, not a name you hear very much. I talked about him getting 2. He had 4 sacks last year at the cornerback position, or defensive back position, was he's labeled at. And he's actually second on the depth chart. And I believe he was behind Awuzie.
Yes.
Yes, he is. It is Awuzie.
On my thing, he is.
Yeah, same with mine. So that should be interesting. Not a name that you know very well. Then they had a big loss in the secondary this year as well, with Byron Jones going to the Dolphins.
Yeah. And then, did we talk about linebackers yet? Just to
No,
clarify?
we didn't. But this is another, strong point of this.
Yes, of course it is. I mean, you look at the young stud Leighton Vander Esch out of Boise State. Actually, I didn't even know that. Honestly, I don't know why I didn't know that. And then Sean Lee's still there. I mean, he's getting
battled some
up
injuries,
there.
getting older, but still a good veteran presence.
He's played 11 years. I mean, that's
Vander Esch had some
been
injury
good for a
issues
while.
last year, so that's what made it tough for him.
Yeah,
Ended up with 43 solo tackles
Jalen
and
Smith
0.5 sacks.
Yeah, he had some injuries early in his career. But
Sean Lee?
No,
Jalen Smith?
Yeah,
Jalen Smith did.
Let's talk about Vander Esch.
He's played 4 years, so still got some gas left in the tank. And then
2.5
lastly,
let's 83 solo for Jalen Smith.
I love
tackles.
the stats, Jordan. Thank you very much.
6 tackles for loss. Sean Lee, 4 tackles for loss, 55 solo tackles, 31 assisted, 86 combined with 0 forced fumbles and an interception like I talked about before. 25 yards off that interception, by the way.
Thank you. And then lastly, let's talk about the safeties.
Yeah.
Who we need to hit more on. I think Jordan mentioned Xavier Woods. Did you mention him or no?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll just list off the other names as well. There's Donovan Wilson, Darian Thompson, Luther Kirk, and then, of course, Clinton Dix, who they got from Jordan's favorite and my favorite team, the Bears, in the offseason.
Did some good stuff.
He did good for the Bears.
So.
We know a lot about him after watching him.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that's exciting for them. Another huge addition to their secondary and to their team. Lastly, let's talk about special teams unless Jordan has any stats.
I think I'm done with my stats for now. I got most of them read off that I wanted to, so I'll let you guys take it away.
All right. Well, they've had kicker trouble as of recently, but right now they have Greg Zuerlein.
Oh, yeah. Did you not know they had him? You sounded surprised.
Yeah, I actually looked at that.
Greg the Leg, yeah.
Greg the Leg.
He can win you some games.
Do you guys know who the Rams have now?
I don't know. That's a good question. But yeah, Greg the Leg, he can certainly win you some games unless it's Thursday Night Football in Seattle.
Yes.
Good kicker.
And then there's Chris Jones, who is their punter, and LP Ledesor.
How do you say it, maybe? I don't know.
Something like that is their long snapper. So I believe we've gone through the entire team. You guys always talk about how we might have missed people. We're not necessarily fans of these teams as per se, so we don't know every single person. So we apologize if we missed one of your favorite players. I hope we didn't. I don't think we did. But now we're going to go do our rough record predictions for each of us. And once again, it's a rough record prediction. This is not exact. We probably you'll see our predictions, and those will be our things. So Jordan, we'll start on the left side. If he's found the Rams kicker or not, I don't know. But you're up first. What's your record prediction?
Well, first of all, Sam Sloman is the Rams kicker this year. They drafted him out of Miami.
Okay. Which one?
It just says Miami.
Well, Ohio or Florida.
If it doesn't say
Miami of Ohio. There it is. Yeah, I probably should have known that by the jerseys too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that did not look like a Miami jersey.
Yeah. No. Anyways, record prediction. As usual, I was not thinking about it before this, but I am pretty high on the Cowboys, even though I don't like to watch them at 325 every single week.
Joe
and Troy. Boring. I don't hate Joe and Troy.
Well, no, I don't hate them either.
Sometimes I hate them just because they're constantly calling either Packers or Cowboys games.
Throw in some Seahawks.
In there as well. That's very true. And then there's sometimes like a Raiders game that will be shown.
Yeah.
Or some AFC West game. Anyways, record prediction. I like the Cowboys this year, unfortunately, because I don't like them in here, but I like them here and on computer and paper.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that they're in a somewhat, it's not really a tough division. The Eagles might give them some competition throughout it just because there are people who are high on the Eagles. Don't have their schedule in front of me.
You never know.
It's true. They always can win some games. The NFC East, it kind of goes randomly on who wins in divisional games sometimes. But anyways, my record prediction for them, as Ryan gives me the finger to hurry up, not that...
Nice.
Yeah, not the other way of the finger.
Spin like this. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I would.
I'm going to say they're going to go 11-5.
Fine.
Well, I really like Dallas as well this year. I think they're the best team in that division. I think they got better. I'm tempted to go a little higher, but for now, I'm going to say 11-5. But this team might make a little playoff run and get a playoff upset or two. So watch out for them. I think they go 11-5.
In terms of their roster, I think it's definitely a top 5 roster in the NFL. You look at how impressive it is all around. There's not many weaknesses.
Yeah.
I am concerned about Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott in their first year. I do think overall, if Dak Prescott signs a longer-term contract, they will have a good relationship. But I'm not going to go any higher than 11-5 because of that reason. The roster is so good that I'm going to have to stick with you and say rough record prediction at 11-5. We say that across the table.
Right.
Might be boring, but we don't lie about our predictions on this channel. We tell you the truth. Or our opinions.
Well, if you want to hear something else interesting, I have Sam Sloman's stats up, so I'll just read those off for a quick second. Just if you're
This is the
interested.
Rams kicker.
Extra points, he went 34 through 35, 97.1%. If you wanted to hear that percentage, and also field goals, he went 26 of 30, 86.7%. Just thought that was interesting. Ended up scoring 112 points for Miami of Ohio last year.
What a way to end the Cowboys deep dive talking about the Rams kicker.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
like
guys
to
for
throw in
watching
some
this
interesting
video.
facts in there.
Make sure to like this
Maybe a
video,
minute,
subscribe
more
to our
interesting.
channel,
Like
hit
I
the
was.
notification bell, comment about this team down below. Tell us what you thought about what we said, your record prediction, anything about the Cowboys.
Tell us if you like the Cowboys or not, too.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a poll on that.
With that, we will see you guys later.
See ya.